Hi, Elise/Aquilacat here. I imagine many of you are just as exhausted and frustrated as I am after the election. So I don't know how many of you have seen my previous video about hanging on to hope, but that is going to be more relevant than ever right now and in the coming years. So this country is about to become a lot more hateful towards and dangerous for a lot of us. Like following the election, I took some time to grieve, and then I staved off despair by making a plan to start taking action. Although it did take one of my friends figuratively knocking some sense into me when I was panicking to get me in the right mindset to divert my focus away from panic and despair and toward taking action. There isn't much I can do that's actually tangible, but what I can do is compile information and educate. I can help others find a direction for action to take or find resources if they need help. And then I can volunteer my time to at least help make my local community a better place to be. Community is going to be essential in the following years, so here is how we can help each other to survive. In general, a really good resource is the ACLU. This stands for the American Civil Liberties Union. They help on the legal side of things to protect people's rights. Now, they've been around for a while, helping with things from getting involved in the Brown v. Board of Education case about segregation in schools, to being involved in cases like Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton to defend reproductive rights. Some of their work there may have been undone in recent years, but they still persevere and they still fight for civil rights as much as they possibly can. They've also helped immigrants and pushed back against privacy violations as well. They get involved in many different aspects of human rights, so this is why I think they're a good one for me to bring up first. Another all-encompassing one that helps multiple groups is the Center for the Study of Social Policy, an anti-racist organization aiming to turn ideas into action with a focus on the rights of children, immigrants, BIPOC, and LGBT+ communities. So the first population group that I want to talk about is children and ways to help them. Now, I am not a mother, and I have been trying for decades now to basically get myself spayed and only had partial success, but that doesn't mean that I hate children. Children are among our most vulnerable individuals, and they are our future. In my mind, the whole friggin' point of life in general is to leave this world a better place than we found it, and that includes actually doing our best to help the children who are already here. Now, an organization that I am personally familiar with is the National CASA/GAL Association for Children. It's one that I highly recommend you support, and they directly help children in foster care. Depending on where in the country you are, volunteers or paid employees for this organization are either called CASAs or GALs. That's either court-appointed special advocates or guardians ad litem. In Oregon, where I am, it's a volunteer position, and they're known as CASA volunteers. These are people who go through a free training program that, by the way, is also work schedule friendly, usually having trainings in the evening or on the weekends, to become volunteers appointed by a court judge to directly help foster children that they are assigned to. These volunteers can speak with anybody in a child's case, whether that's the parents, the foster guardians, teachers, medical providers, the caseworker. They act as the eyes and ears for the judge and as an extra set of eyes on DHS, CPS, whatever they're called in your area, an extra set of eyes on the caseworker to make sure that the child is getting all of these services that they need, including health and education services, and to make sure that the child's placement in the foster system is safe. The CASAs and GALs have a very important role in helping keep everybody on the same page and focused on the welfare of the child's best interests, and the safety of the child. So if you want to genuinely help children, especially those in foster care, this is a great way to do that. Ideally, every child in foster care would be assigned a CASA or a GAL to help keep the case focused on them, but there simply aren't enough volunteers. And it isn't an easy position. I could only handle it for a couple of years before the emotional toll got just so heavy that I couldn't handle it anymore. So it is not easy. It's tough. But if that is something that you can handle, I do highly recommend that you volunteer as a CASA or GAL. Then there's the Kids in Need Foundation, which focuses on education for children in communities that are lacking those resources. They assist with school supplies for students and for teachers, and they also have the RISE program, which stands for Rural and Indigenous School Equity, to focus on students in those communities. They do have a few scattered centers on the western part of the country, but most of their centers are on the eastern and southern sides of the country. The National Head Start Association is another that's focused on ensuring education for children. They're known for their early Head Start programs that offer support for both parents and young children. However, this is a federally funded association, and given how the election went, I fully expect budget cuts will happen to cut federal funding to many programs that actually help people. However, that hasn't happened yet, so definitely utilize these resources while you still can. The National Center for Children in Poverty is a public health organization focusing on children in poverty and on education, but they're also involved in mental health and immigration too. They are research-based, collecting a lot of data and utilizing it to push for policy changes that improve lives. There's also the Save the Children Federation that's been around for 100 years, working on a global scale to protect the health and well-being of children. They are not affiliated with the Save the Children hashtag that started going around a few years ago. The next vulnerable population I want to discuss is women. So whether cis or trans, anybody who has lived even part of their lives as a woman knows what it's like for us and has been and is a vulnerable population. We have already had to fight so freaking hard for basic rights, and that just became a whole lot harder. Our health is already dismissed and our safety is already at risk every time we leave our homes. With how the election went, the next few years are going to be even tougher. So for us, there is the Center for Reproductive Rights. They advocate globally for reproductive rights. For the USA specifically, here is their page with resources for abortions, including links near the bottom for how you can get involved if you want to help. And then in regards to domestic violence, there's the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which offers resources, planning, and assistance to anybody trying to escape from domestic violence. It is mostly women needing this kind of assistance, but the language used on the website is gender neutral, so anybody can reach out to them for help. The fact that their services, as you can see here, are experiencing such a high volume lately goes to show just how necessary these services are, especially now. So if you need them, please do reach out to them for help. Additionally, there's also the anti-racist organization, the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. They have many resources and a lot of information available and are focused on empowering and amplifying the voices of the marginalized and oppressed especially. It isn't only women they aim to help, but any victim of domestic violence, regardless of gender. And then that leads into the next vulnerable population that I want to discuss, the BIPOC community. If you didn't already know, this stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. Racism is a huge issue, and combating racism is a necessity, especially now. You can find a whole lot of anti-racism resources on LibGuides. Many of these resources also apply to the LGBT+ community. Resources range from Black authors and content creators to BIPOC mental health resources to various local, for LibGuides at least, is Colorado, and national organizations aimed at helping the BIPOC community. And one of them that really caught my eye on that list is Soul to Soul Sisters. It isn't an organization, but it's a revolution, focusing on, as the website says, Black women, girls, and gender-expansive beloveds. So if you fall into that group, then this seems like an excellent resource and community to seek out. They also have multiple pages of resources covering topics like economic justice, support services, anti-racism, and more general resources for Black women's healing. Magellan Healthcare has a list of BIPOC resources mostly related to mental health, and you can look at those here. And then, of course, there's also Black Lives Matter. Hopefully you all know who they are after 2020. You can learn more about them, see resources, and find out who you can support them here. The next population I want to talk about is the LGBT+, LGBTQ+ community. Queer Med focuses on providing legal, physical health care, and mental health care access to the queer community, although they honestly have a little bit of everything on their website, from legal and general physical and mental health care services to instructional videos on how to do intramuscular and subcutaneous injections, to speech therapy, financial aid, advocacy support groups, fertility, name change assistance. Like, they have a whole lot of things. Their resources page lists multiple providers in various states, and many also offer their services virtually. Lambda Legal focuses on offering legal assistance to LGBT+ and HIV-positive individuals. They can assist in a wide variety of legal cases such as immigration, employment, discrimination, and police misconduct. Advocates for Trans Equality Rights is a merger of two other organizations, the National Center for Transgender Equality, NCTE, and the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund, TLDEF. They are advocates specializing in law and policy, and they are actively seeking volunteers nationwide. So if you want to help the trans community specifically, you can find out how to volunteer here. Then there's also the public health organization, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Their page specifically for the LGBT+ community, where you can ask for assistance or offer to help, can be found here. Now, the last specific population that I want to discuss is immigrants. I can only imagine how frustrating and helpless it must feel to work so hard to make a life for yourself and your family in another country, only for your life to automatically become so much more difficult with what the results of this election can bring. Getting used to a different culture, a new language, governmental system, laws, all that can be very difficult, so here are some ways to assist. The Immigrant Legal Resource Center is an advocacy group that offers education and resources. They cover multiple areas, including Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, aka DACA, asylum seekers, temporary protected status, citizenship, help with visas, and post-conviction relief. If you need legal support, their page with information on that is here. HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, is an international Jewish-funded refugee protection organization that can help refugees resettle, provide legal support, support community mental health, respond to emergencies and disasters, and they also advocate for refugee rights. The U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, aka the USCRI, is a non-governmental, non-profit organization that provides legal, social, and health services as well as advocacy for refugees and immigrants, including trafficking survivors. They specifically aid people in the USA, Mexico, Kenya, Honduras, and El Salvador. Now, I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Links for everything I've discussed can be found either in the description or in a pinned comment, or both. I think my next video will go over nationwide resources for basic needs like food, housing, and healthcare. After that, perhaps I'll go through each state and USA territory alphabetically, one video per state or territory, and compile various resources for those basic needs, as well as for every community that I went over in this video. If you know of any other resources along these lines that can help others, please share them below, especially if they're not governmentally funded. Like I said before, we're likely to see a lot of budget cuts in the coming years to governmentally funded programs, especially to any programs that actually go to helping people and their survival. Now, there might not be much that we can individually do to change things on a grand scale, but we can each help in our own ways. Care for yourself, then care for family and friends, then care for your community. You can best help others after you yourself are in a good mental state to do so. Community is going to be very important. We need to help each other. So reach out for help if you need it. There's no shame in doing so. We all need help at some point. And cling to whatever small threads of hope and goodness that you can find. So I'll see you in the next video, but in the meantime, please be as safe as you possibly can and hang on to hope.